All right. So this is the conclusion of Theodicy. Theodicy tells the story of the events leading up to the Battle of Vakatioth. You should be able to find a playlist down below of all of the different chapters up until this point if you want to listen to the entire thing. If not, just understand that basically one of the major Amarian leaders has effectively betrayed the Amar and has tricked Mechiosorum into attacking the Jovians at the system of Atioth. We now know, since this is the Battle of Vakatioth, that this is one of the most critical moments in Eve history. This is where the Jovians kick the Amarians' butt, and which leads directly to the full-scale Minmatar rebellion. So this is a critical moment in history and a very good story. So if you haven't listened to it already, I encourage you to go back and listen to the entire thing. But without further ado, let us conclude the Odyssey. Some look back at the worlds we lost, at the places where great cathedrals once stood, and grieve for the glory of what could have been. To them I say this: reclaim your faith. As God is my witness, those worlds which were taken from us shall be ours again, and on holy ground I shall build cathedrals that no heathen can tear down. Jamil Sorum, Amar Succession Trials, 233-42 AD. Civilization looks away while we deploy ships to guard borders beyond which Minmatar slaves still toil for Amarian masters. How else are we to interpret this complacency as anything but indifference? How long are we to exercise restraint, in accordance to your definition of decency, while this evil is allowed to exist? Carvor Thorel, Brutor Representative to the Minmatar Republic Council. Concord Assembly, 233-43 AD. Essence Region, Crux Constellation. The Wren System, unknown deep space location. Bear emerged from the shuttle ramp into the alien world that inspired him with fear and awe. The massive cavern was a host to dozens of Jovian warships, suspended or perched in docking bays that reminded him of larvae inside of a great insect hive. Every structure had a distinctly organic appearance. There were no sharp angles or defined edges to any surface that he could see. If not for the pinpoints of navigation beacons and soft glow of idling ion engines, the vista would disappear into a darkish green labyrinth of endlessly spiraling curves and ridges. The entire base seemed to breathe as if it was one single living organism. Almost, Bear thought, like a slumbering beast. "Come this way, please," said one of the Jovian guards, waiting at the bottom of the ramp. Bear hustled the rest of the way down to catch up. The two guards studied him for a moment before turning towards the main structure. "What station is this?" Bear asked, craning his neck to follow the path of a frigate docking high above it. The shuttle didn't jump through any stargates. "Not a station," Grius said, emerging from the opposite side of the walkway. "A mothership. This one just returned from Vakatioth to collect the remaining industrials in Gallente space. Then it will depart for Amarian territories to assist in the armament of Minmatar rebels." Bear blinked. "This hangar is inside a ship?" "We must hurry," the Jovian said, motioning with his arms. "The commanders want to move as soon as jump drive capacitors are fully recharged." Bear followed Grius into the structure as the door sealed behind them. He was making every effort not to stare at the Jovian's pitch-black eyes. "How's Viola?" "Alive," the Jovian answered, "and in the process of being transferred to a medical personnel at the Rayan FIO base and under the direct supervision of Senator Deseru." "What's her condition?" Grius paused for a moment as the door reopened to the darkened chamber with several views of space. Bear was not even aware that they had been moving. "Physically, we did everything we could, but I suspect the emotional wounds will take much longer to heal." Bear heart sank. "Do you think she'll ever recover?" "For now, let's focus on what we know for certain," Grius answered, walking to the middle of the chamber. The holographic image of the Imperial Navy battle line formation filled the entire space of the room. Bear could see hundreds of the gold-tinted Amarian warships facing down a much smaller group of Jovian ships. The Imperial issue Apocalypse-class battleship was firing its tachyon beams towards them. "This is how it began," Gria said. The stationary image panned back so that Bear could see the beams striking the Jovian cruiser. "The name of this ship firing those tachyons is the Redemption, commanded by Commodore Foss Akradon. These were the opening shots of the engagement, and the signal for our own forces to begin their attack." The battle imagery moved quickly, panning forward at 5 times the normal speed. Bear flinched as an enormous bright green beam sliced through the room, passing directly in front of where he was standing and slamming into the Apocalypse. His stomach turned to ice as the beam, nearly 80 meters in diameter in his estimate, passed cleanly through the massive battleship. Grius paused the image and zoomed in on the doomed vessel. Green fire was erupting along the seams where the beam was exiting through the hull. "Observe, Lieutenant Colonel, that the use of this weapon was not required to establish battlefield superiority. We want you to have this imagery in case Emperor Hadrian attempts to suppress the truth of what really happened at Vakatioth." The image panned back again and resumed play. Bear had to cover his eyes as explosion after explosion blossomed beneath the awesome destructive power of the Jovian superweapon. "I understand," Bear said. "What of Foss Akradon? Is he all right?" "We do not know for certain, but we fear the worst for him," Grius answered. "Observe the following sequence of events." Bear could see the Amarian formation was breaking apart. As battleship hulls engulfed in flames drifted away from the main line, many of the remaining ships were turning away from the Jovian attacks and attempting to escape. "Keep your eyes on the Redemption," Grius said as the image focused on the Imperial issue Apocalypse. The gun turrets of the mighty battleship were firing at Jovian warships when it was suddenly hit by several white beams. "Oh no," Bear breathed. "Did the Amarians fire those shots?" Grius remained silent as the image panned back. Bear watched in horror as several Amarian warships turned against the Redemption, hitting the battleship from close range with multispectral laser fire. "We know that just before the attack occurred, there was some kind of disagreement between Emperor Hadrian and Grand Admiral Sauron," Grius said. "It appears that conversation triggered a mutiny aboard the Redemption." The image froze and then zoomed all the way in to a close-up of the Redemption's midline superstructure. The windowed frames of several docks were plainly visible. "Focus on the portals while I play the footage at normal speed," Grius instructed. Alternating flashings were illuminating the window frames on several decks. Bear cringed, recognizing immediately that he was watching a running gun battle on board of the Redemption. Suddenly, an explosion from inside the crew blew out several of the portals. Dozens of bodies were tumbling through the gaps in space. "Dear God," Bear muttered, turning away from the image. "He told them, didn't he?" "That, or he was betrayed by the Order," Grius answered. "We may never know." The image panned back, and Bear saw the container eject from one of the battleship's cargo bay. Right after the explosion, this container was jettisoned. We were then faced with a difficult choice. Faust instructed us not to destroy the Redemption until this explicit point in time, with the understanding that he would be aboard the container. But after observing the mutiny, we could no longer be certain of his safety. Then the Amarians made the decision for us. The Redemption's turrets abruptly turned towards the tiny container and opened fire, narrowly missing. 3 Phantoms uncloaked, shielding the fragile structure from the torrent of multispectral pulse fire directed at nearby Amarian cruisers. A bright green beam impaled the Redemption, and the phantasms and containers both disappeared. Faust Akradon was not inside, Gria said. Only Viola, the last surviving Valkyr from Demnon raid, and the Nefintar physician were on board. It was highly probable that Faust was dead before the Redemption's guns attempted to destroy them. Bear shuddered at the Redemption's exploded in blinding flash, its shattered remnants hurtling through the murky atmosphere of the planet below. Who was the Nefintar on board? A medical practitioner named Lucien, one of Faust's most trusted servants, We are honoring his wish to be transferred to the Kazna system. He asked that you be given information on his whereabouts, with the condition that it not be shared with anyone. And the Valkyr? Currently in surgery to restore the use of his legs, Grius answered. We are in awe of his physical conditioning. Nothing else explains his survival, and I intend to monitor his recovery closely. Bear watched the final explosion of the epic battle, unable to deny his feeling pity for the Amarian crews as the brutal slaughter came to an end. The Jovian fleet flew back towards their deadly mothership, leaving behind a graveyard of charred wreckage, ominously set against the backdrop of distant nebula tinted the color of blood. As the burning remnants of the Imperial dominance fell towards the roiling atmosphere of Vakatioth 1, Bear realized that the memory of this fateful event, a miracle for some, a nightmare for others, would become a legend, never to be forgotten. We will keep you informed of the armaments operations progress, Grius said as the holographic imagery disappeared. The first rebellions are intended to draw the bulk of the Paladins' invasion forces away from the Horror system and scatter the divisions throughout the Empire. By then, the Minotaurs will be ready to take Iana back from the Amar, and we will lend our assistance in the rebuilding process if the remaining elders wish it. Bear looked at the mysterious Jovian and studied his alien-like features, wondering what secrets the man knew. Will the Jovians ever send official representatives to any governments? No, Grius said, handing Bear a small disc. The war against the Order demands all our efforts. And to restrict their manipulations of power within the races, we are going to withdraw from Geminant and Veil of the Silent regions. Then, we will destroy the Stargates, bridging faction space with our own. Bear was stunned. You're going to withdraw and destroy the gates? Amar's thirst for power is far too easy for the Order to exploit. This is the only way to remove that option from them, and to ensure that they can no longer use us in their schemes against you. But what is their motive? Bear asked. What do they want from us? Grius thought for a moment before answering. Their interests lie in reshaping the course of mankind according to their own design. Their design? Bear said, angered. Why not just conquer us outright by use of force? Because they desire for you to embrace them on your own free will, Grius replied. And they hope to accomplish this by forcing us into wars with each other? Bear scoffed. If need be, yes, Grius answered. Bear was deeply troubled by the answers Grius was giving him. But waging war against something so powerful? They are not without weakness, Grius said. But for now, all we can do is work to thwart their efforts at operating within the empires as best we can. Bear turned his weary gaze towards one of the portals, staring into the endless expanse of space surrounding the colossal Jovian mothership. Evil with no boundaries, he murmured. From within and from without, everywhere and nowhere. How can we face this enemy without your help? By finding the strength to face the evil within first, Grius answered. And that's it. That's the entire Theodicy, guys. We did it. We made it. 189 pages, 7 chapters and a prologue and an epilogue. We are done. I really want to thank everybody who has made it through all of this. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. But also share this story with other people. I think that this is a really cool moment. A lot of places, a lot of people know about the Battle of Vakatioth. Hold on. Battle of Vakatioth. I don't know how to spell it, even though it was just right there. There it is. So, here is the Eve Universe portal thing about the Battle of Vakatioth. I thought, does it not have it? Oh. Well, yeah. Either way, this right here. Is it going to show it? No. Why not? Well. All right, then. So this is the green laser of the Jovian weapon system destroying the Redemption, by the way. So, the Battle of Vakatioth is probably one of the most famous moments in EVE history. It kicked off the Minotaur Rebellion. It was... it's in legend. You can actually go to Atioth and see the remains of the Battle of Vakatioth to this day, including the Jovian Observatory as it begins to decay from nanorot. Obviously, the Jovians after this continued to kind of fall apart due to the Jovian disease until finally, around the time of Caroline's Star, it was confirmed that all but 100 Jovians had either left or died. Only about 100 Jovians remained, including what's his name? Can't remember his name now, but he's the Jovian in charge that was connected to the Society of Conscious Thought, which you can learn more about in the Chronicle Inheritance, which I also suggest is one of the most important chronicles in EVE. And you could actually check out Inheritance. If you want to read it, then that's, you can find it on the EVE Universe portal, but also the EVE Reader podcast did their own version of it, which is too long for us to listen to now, but we might do it another day. But I will link it. But also, obviously, this story continues, this writer continues in Empyrean Age and then finally Templar 1. So, if you want to get deeper into this whole thing. I think that should be it. So the Jovians have pods. But this was before the Jovians gave the Caldari pod technology. Also, by the way, the Jove capsules did not have immortality built in, although they have their own systems for immortality, obviously, with their cloning systems. But the introduction of the TEBs, the transneural brain, scanners, the thing that allows us to scan our brains for the transfer of consciousness, that was actually added almost 100 years after the Jovians gave the pod to the capsules, or the pod to the Caldari, which of course triggered the introduction of proper capsuleers like us, and the rest, as they say, is history. So I do have other chronicles I've read on the EVE News, or on my YouTubes, if you like these kinds of things, and I'll continue to read them. If you have a chronicle or another EVE story that you would like me to read or prioritize to read like this, please mention it in the comments below, so we can get plenty of engagement, and people will, and YouTube will like my stuff. Speaking of which, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. It really, really, really does help. And you can always support the channel if you want to by joining my Patreon, becoming a member of the YouTube, picking out some merch for yourself or for a Christmas present. There's a lot of good ways. Or you could just join the Convocation of Empyreans and help us maximize player engagement with EVE Online, because that's the whole point of all of this, is to build a better EVE player base, because EVE is all about us as players, and therefore EVE is only as good as we are. I would like to give an extra special thanks to all of my supporters, especially my co-designers Abyssus, Aikawarazu Chan, Arydanika the Queen, Black Rose Noble, Dajat Lemmont, Drake, Golden Age Stories, J. Kuhn, LM1, Malak Starfire, Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Serenolin with No Eyes, Syliana Vel'ash, Nephilim, Grendel, and Zaul Nex, as well as my Immortal tier supporters Ebo1337 and Rid. Thank you all so much. And in addition to them, I of course want to thank all of you who watch my videos, like them, subscribe to the channel, support it by sharing it around and helping get this information out there. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by joining my Patreon, becoming a member on YouTube, checking out some of the merch that we have, get some swag, whatever. But either way, I thank you just for being here. And until next time, I have been Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden, and I'll see you in space.